Hello everyone, welcome back to Formula 2 for round number 9 at Silverstone. 6 rounds to go in the championship, including this one. And Silverstone, just like the Red Bull Ring, has typically been a track I have been quite strong at in the past, so let us hope that continues here today. So, let's focus on qualifying. Took me a couple of laps actually to get into a rhythm around here. Being such a wide circuit, it's strangely difficult to find all the right lines around some of the corners here, but always a fun circuit to come back to. And yeah, in my opinion, one of the
Drop to P20.
highlights of the Formula 2 calendar, especially in terms of the overtaking and racing you can get at this circuit. But anyway, we are on our second flying lap in qualifying, actually our third flying lap. This is towards the end of the session, which I don't normally do, but we are currently well down the order in P20, so we do need to find some improvement. We did 2 laps at the start of the session, 2 consecutive laps, and that's where they've landed us. So we're going again. We don't get a new set of tyres in Formula 2, just the one set for qualifying. So these tyres have seen some laps, but obviously the more laps I do, the more practice I get and the better I can go. So yeah, there's a bit of a trade-off there, but we are coming through Stone now, and we're finding a decent chunk of improvement. So hopefully this is enough to get us into the top 10, and we can fight from there in the races. But yeah, the first 2 laps in qualifying were no good. Anyway, we come to the line now, and we'll go P number 5 in the end. So we did rescue that session in the closing stages.
With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the feature race tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
Alrighty, what do we have here? Daruvula on pole position ahead of Ayumu Iwasa. So great qualifying by the Japanese driver Ollie Behrman and Frederick Vesti on the second row for Prema. Good weekend for them potentially. But further down the order we have Dennis Hauger all the way down in P19. Terrible qualifying for one of the championship contenders. Unfortunately, Kushmani not much better. So our teammate down in P16. It's going to be another tough weekend. Victor Martins misses out on the top 10 as well, albeit only just, to Clement Novalak, who will start on reverse grid pole. So still 3 French drivers in the top 10 with Théo Pourchaire and Isaac Hadjar up there as well. Let's get into the sprint race.
So it's all about speed in today's sprint race then. Not very many laps and no chance to get ahead on strategy. Who here today has the raw skill to take them to the top? Five miles out from Tosa, this icon of British motorsport heritage comprises 18 corners over 3.6 miles of circuit. Silverstone has been through several changes over its lifetime, with the start line now leading into Abbey, a fast right-hander for turn 1. But still there, of course, is the circuit's most famous and iconic sequence of corners, starting at Maggots, turn 10. In the commentary box, I'm Alex Jakes. Alex Brundle is alongside me. And now, we've had sprints for years in Formula 2, but with a shorter race, how does that change your driving style?
Well, you've got the grid reversed, giving some drivers who wouldn't normally get it the opportunity to take a win or a podium home. They're going to be looking to snatch that opportunity, if at all possible.
Alrighty, so here we are on the grid, ready to go racing for the sprint race at Silverstone. As always, in the sprint race, no pit stop required, and no weather to interfere today, so it's just going to be a flat-out race to the end on the hard compound tyres. We're starting out at P6, so not too dissimilar to where we qualified. And yeah, we'll see how this goes as we go to the 5 red lights. And we're underway for the sprint race at Silverstone, and it's a decent launch off the line for us straight away as we make the move to the outside of Théo Pourchaire. We immediately jump the row in front of us, move up into 4th position. So a good start in the opening, 2 corners already at Silverstone. And now we'll see if we can do anything about Arthur Leclerc, who has a good chance to bring in some good points today. It was a decent start to the season for Leclerc, but it has sort of fallen away in recent races. But today is a good chance for Leclerc to potentially bring home a podium once more. So we'll see how it goes, but yeah, it's been a clean start as we have a bit of a moment there into Luffield, so we'll just have to try and gather this back up. And we've got Teo Porciao on our inside now as we head through Woodcote, and we're going to have to potentially defend this one. Porciao had a bit of an overlap there, but we'll have enough speed to outdrag the ART driver towards Copse Corner. We won't have to worry too much through there. Now into Maggots and Beckett's, and this is where I'm feeling a super quick, just hurling it over the curbs here through this S section. Oh, a bit too much there though, and that's a spin as we just have to make sure we get out of the way of the massive train of cars that goes chugging on through, and we drop all the way down into P20. Goodness me, that was an suboptimal sequence of events. A bit of a lock-up up the road there as we head into Stowe, side by side with a Marie Cordial. We'll squeeze through on the Belgian driver as we take a look to the inside, and it's 3 wide with Roman Stanek and Roy Nassani there as we battle it out through the final sequence of corners. Stanek still fighting on through the final apex. Maybe a tiny bit of contact, but we'll get through on Trident driver, and the feisty Czech has to back out eventually. Back on board with myself then, it is Jack Crawford, a lot lower down the field than in the previous round at the Red Bull Ring as we go charging down the inside. We actually made slight contact on the way through. Unfortunately, that led to some front wing damage for Crawford. Didn't realise that until much later on, so I don't have a replay of that one, unfortunately. But yeah, that was an aggressive move on the American driver. A replay of the start, Novalak and Doohan pretty even off the line, maybe doing marginally better, but not enough to challenge the Frenchman into turn 1. And Clement Novalak was able to maintain the lead from reverse grid pole, and has a good opportunity in this race to take home the victory. But Jack Doohan's been quite quick throughout the season, so it'll be interesting to see if the Aussie can chase him down. On board with myself then as we get underneath Zane Maloney, who just about jumped out the way for us there. That was very kind of him. We'll go on board with Zane Maloney, and there was just the slightest bit of contact, maybe just unsettled the rear end of the Maloney car there, but either way we're able to sneak through down the inside. And speaking of down the inside, that's a move on Kushmani, our teammate, and I took a lot of that inside curb to try to make sure we didn't make any contact with our teammate. We're still going at it here as we head into the final sequence of corners, but we'll make the move stick on Kushmani. And next up is the Dutchman, Richard Verschoor.
Good job. That was the fastest lap of the race so far.
The fastest lap of the race as we test the Dallara F2 off-road capabilities, and they seem okay to be fair. But anyway, we'll try to keep it on the black stuff as we start to chase down Richard Verschoor. Where are we going to make the move on the Dutchman? Not into Maggots, so let's see if we can get a nice flowing run through here. And you know what, we might try the outside of Beckett's to the inside of Chapel, and we'll get the move done and move ourselves up one more position on Richard Verschoor. So that was a nice move, and we are charging through the field at the moment. Meanwhile, to the top 3, and Leclerc spins, and wow, that from out of nowhere, he had no pressure from behind, so just pushing too hard to try to keep up with Novalak and Doohan, and Arthur Leclerc is pointing the wrong way and now has to wait for the whole field to go by. And after the whole field goes by, he starts reversing. Not sure why he had to wait for that, but there you go. There's still more cars going past. Where are you going, mate? He's halfway through the gravel trap now. Where is he going? Now he's going forwards again, and will eventually rejoin the circuit, but that was a roundabout way of getting mobile in this race again. So Arthur Leclerc has just seen a ton of time go straight down the drain, and a massive opportunity with it. Down the inside of Clement Novalak goes Jack Doohan, though. This is for the race lead, and the Alpine livery car takes first place in the race. Clement Novalak settling for second at the moment. Back on board with myself as we go for the plunge down the inside into Stowe once more. And that's been a nice spot for us so far. That move was on Juan Manuel Correa, as we've got a little bit more action with Novalak and Doohan. Doohan locks up and Novalak slips through. So there is an ongoing battle between these two. And now Clement Novalak has the upper hand, but the race is only not even a third over. So there is still plenty to go between those two. Back on board with myself though, as we are putting pressure on the Red Bull liveried Enzo Fittipaldi. We squeeze down the inside into Maggots there, and we just about get away with it. But that was a tight one, and that's worked out very well for us in the end.
Nice move, good job.
Next up, we've got Victor Martins, who is again going to be struggling for points in the sprint race. We'll see if we can make the move. Big lunge down the inside into Stowe, picking up the throttle very early there on that occasion, and yeah, carrying quite a lot of mid-corner speed. So working well for us at the moment, and I actually made a setup change to the car coming into this weekend, which is probably the first change I've made since round 2, as we see Jack Doohan back down the inside of Clement Novalak just a few laps after he lost the lead. He's got it back now, as they might need to fight this out a bit longer, but I think Doohan's got it done. Little defense into the final sequence of corners, but Jack Doohan's got it all under control and maintains the race lead once more. So this is going to be an ongoing battle between these two. I don't think Novalak is done just yet. Back on board with myself though, as we continue to put the pressure on this big old chain of cars in front, and we make the move on exit there, as we've got an issue for Dennis Hauger, so the bad weekend gets even worse for the Norwegian driver, and he retires from the race with a mechanical failure. We just made that move on to Ruvala, by the way. I don't know if I actually mentioned that, who it was, but anyway, we go for the next move down the inside of Ayumu Iwasa, and we'll see if we can squeeze through. Still running side by side, and we can't quite get it done. Maybe down the inside into the club section, almost into the back of the Prema car of Oliver Behrman, but we'll get away with it and move ourselves ahead of Ayumu Iwasa.
Good job, nice overtake.
And yeah, we are quite high up the field now. We're up into P7, into the points, so doing quite well so far. Now we make the move down the inside of Ollie Behrman up into P6, so yeah, this is turning out to be a very decent recovery drive for us. Of course, the laps continue to count down, and we're about 3/4 of the way through the race now, as we try to set up the next move. Next up the road is Isaac Hadjar, down the inside of the next Red Bull liveried car, and we move ourselves up ahead of Hadjar and up into the top 5 in this race now. So yeah, this has been a really nice recovery, and we're back fighting with the other championship contenders, with Frederick Vesti right in front of us in the Prema. And of course we need to try and outscore Prema by as much as we can. That's a bit of a hop over the curbs there though.
That was the fastest lap of the race so far.
And fastest lap as we did so. Here it is on replay. And yeah, I had no idea there was such an aggressive curb on the inside apex there. I hadn't managed to hit that one before, but you can see we drove straight over it, and that launched the car on quite an angle, but thankfully we were able to get away with it. Anyway, we've still got Frederick Vesti in front. We'll make the move down the inside into Stowe, and hopefully we should be able to get this one done. We're still side by side on the exit as we head towards the club section. Frederick Vesti has to back out of it. He still had the nose in there, but we were able to complete the move around the outside as we look for Jack Doohan and Clement Novalak once more. Novalak down the inside, and they continue to fight for the race lead, and Doohan holds on this time, but Novalak is not going to give this one up. Shades of the end of the 2021 Formula 3 Championship, when those two are duking it out for the race win, while the team were telling them both to stop fighting with each other and focus on the team's championship, which they did ultimately claim that day, although Clement Novalak dropped to third in the race
Nice work, mate. That brings you up a place.
in the end. But we make the move on Teo Porcher there, and that moves us up onto the podium now. So we've officially found ourselves back where we were before that mistake was made. Of course, we would have been 4th if not for Leclerc's mistake, and we continue to set fastest laps of the race. But the battle for the race lead continues. Novalak wants revenge for that day in Formula 3, and Jack Doohan, of course, not wanting to give up this race lead. So it is very much reminiscent of that race in Sochi all those years ago. Novalak retakes the lead, and now with just 1 lap to go, Doohan has all the work to do.
Final lap, push.
So unlike the day in Sochi, Doohan is the one behind, and now will have his work cut out for him on the final lap, and Novalak seems to have taken better care of the tyres over the course of the race. We've actually caught up to these two quite significantly. I didn't think we would, but they've been fighting with each other so hard that not only myself but a few of the others behind have gained as well. So we've got an opportunity here potentially to steal one of these places, but as we have a wobble through Maggots and Beckett's, let's watch the fight for the lead, because Doohan's got DRS and he is not far behind Clement Novalak. The Australian driver goes for the move down the inside into Stowe. Side by side they go. Novalak with the upper hand, but Doohan carrying better mid-corner speed. Novalak a decent exit as they head into the final complex. We bury the nose of the Campos into the diffuser of Jack Doohan's car. We're shoving the Australian through, trying to follow through ourselves. Who's going to come around the final corner first? It's Jack Doohan who crosses the line to take the sprint race win in Silverstone ahead of Novalak and myself. Teo Porcher not far behind as well, closing right in at the end of that one, showing just how much these top two were fighting away. Here's the onboard with myself. We were so deep on the brakes into that final complex, and my plan was simple enough. I was trying to shove Doohan through and stay to the inside of Novalak myself to try and take the inside line through the final corner, but we just couldn't maintain the overlap, just couldn't get the power down. Here's the onboard with Clement Novalak through Stowe, and on the exit you can see how much extra speed we could carry through there, having just not running side by side. There's the big contact into the back of Doohan, multiple occasions through there, and you can see we had the overlap for the briefest of moments, but Novalak able to carry more speed on the outside line. We tried a little run to the line, but ultimately came up far too quickly and we couldn't get the exit.
Yes, and that's a podium. Excellent drive. The whole team have worked especially hard this weekend, and that, my friend, is a fantastic reward. Well done.
Well, it was a bit of NASCAR stuff at the end, but I can't complain about a podium after the disaster at the start of the race.
The Australian driver has left them all behind. Jack Doohan takes the win.
Well, sprint races are basic, aren't they? And that's why we like them. Set them all going and let them have at it. And they really showed the racecraft and pace that you need to win one.
Another race and another victory for Virtuosi as we see the drivers make their way out to the podium for the final ceremony. Superb racing out there today and a well-deserved win.
Well, with the chaos at the end of that one, it was ultra-tight margins for the top three. Jack Doohan taking victory by less than 0.3 of a second over Clement Novalak. Myself in third, less than half a second off the lead.
There will be plenty more twists and turns to come this season. I hope you'll join us at the next race when Formula 2 returns.
I think I might avoid Clement Novalak for a while. He's probably not my biggest fan at the moment after how that race ended. But yeah, there was a chance he could have won if we didn't shove Doohan through on the inside line through the final sequence of corners. But who's to know? But yeah, I mean, my plan was simple enough. I wanted to try and follow Doohan through, and I figured the inside line would be the easiest way to do it. But yeah, anyway, it obviously didn't pan out. Regardless, let's run through the points scorers of this one. Jack Doohan, of course, took the race victory ahead of Novalak and myself with the fastest lap. Teo Portier P4 ahead of Frederic Vesti, Isaac Hadjar in P6, P7 for Oliver Behrman and Ayumu Iwasa rounding out the point scorers in 8th. 9th position going to Jane Deruvala and Enzo Fittipaldi rounding out the top 10. Victor Martins actually lost out in the end, dropping to P12. Krushmaini moved up to P13, but no points for either of those two drivers, which I'm sure their respective teams will be rather disappointed, as they are all in the fight for the team's championship. In terms of the Drivers' Championship then, we still lead the way there. Of course, neither Dua nor Novalak really in the fight there, and with Hauger not making it to the end of that one, he drops further down, or still maintains second in the standings, but is 60 points adrift. The Prema driver of Oliver Behrman a further 9 points back, and then only 2 points further back to the next Prema of Frederic Vesti, 69 and 71 points adrift for the pair of them. Jane Deruvala is the next contender, 78 points adrift of myself, but with a good opportunity to close in some of that margin, starting on pole position in the main event. So, in terms of the Teams Championship then, we are having a bit of tougher time as of late, with Krushmaini struggling for form. So we currently sit, we actually sit at the top of the standings, with MP Motorsport not doing particularly well in that one. We are ahead by 5 points, but I suspect that will swing around in the next one, with Deruvala starting on pole and Dennis Hauger with another opportunity, but starting well down the order. But Prema are potentially the real threats, both of them starting on the second row of the grid, and they're only 7 points adrift in the Team's Championship. ART sort of there or thereabouts, Portier and Martins. They're 49 points adrift, and then the next team, Dams, 120 points behind, so they're not really in the fight proper. So, yeah, it's a full horse race still in the Team's Championship, but some of the horses are running on 2 legs, essentially.
And hello to everyone joining us here in Silverstone this weekend as the drivers make their final preparations for today's race. The grid is forming up and we're getting ready for what promises to be a real spectacle. The 3.6 miles of Silverstone circuit in Great Britain should be familiar to fans and drivers alike. Built on the side of a World War II airbase, the track features 18 corners and some good opportunities to overtake at the end of 2 DRS zones, located on the Wellington and Hangar Straights. Well then, after an exciting session yesterday, let's take a look at how the cars line up. Jane Deruvala lines up on pole position, with Ayumu Iwasa alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Behrman, Vesti, Ralph Boschung, Hadjar, Portier, Leclerc, Doohan, Clermont Novalak, Martins, Fittipaldi, Richard Verschoor, Juan Manuel Correa, Benavides, Miney, Maloney, Jack Crawford, Hauger, Stanek, Nissani, and Amory Cordial completes the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. It is the Formula 2 race. It is time to introduce you to Alex Brundle. I'm Alex Jakes, and we've got changeable weather out there today. That's making for some nervous team personnel down in the paddock, down in the pit lane.
There are going to be some quivering hands on the tyre guns, aren't there, when they tighten up what could easily be the wrong specification of tyre completely for the conditions. It's a gamble out there.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
I mentioned during the previous race that I made a setup change, but I never got around to describing what that was, as we are just going to go for the normal strategy here, softs to hards. But what I did is I increased the differential off throttle. I think it was moved it up to 80%. I was struggling a lot with entry oversteer into corners, which was initially my big problem with this car as we get underway for the feature race at Silverstone. and it's a pretty average getaway for us. We have no room to work with into turn 1. We slowed down quite a lot there, and that's cost us a couple more places. We're all the way down into 8th position, so it has not been a good launch off the line for us, as we maybe look to the outside. Not much grip out there though, and yeah, we're just going to have to maintain what we have and try and fight back through the field when we can, but has not been a strong opening sector of the race for us. But yeah, the trouble I was having at this circuit in particular was that especially at Stowe, when I turned in, the rear end would just keep going straight ahead and the car would just rotate, and it felt like there was almost nothing I could do about it. So I made that tweak, and seemed to make things a little bit better, though it has definitely compromised us in the lower speed corners through you know, Village, the Loop, that section. We're certainly not as strong through there as I think we otherwise could be, but I think the stability we get for the rest of the lap is worth the trade-off, and the confidence we can carry through this sort of medium and higher speed stuff is so much better. We go for the move down the inside of Arthur Leclerc though into the final sequence, and that moves us up into P7, so already on the comeback trail here. And yeah, like I said, it's the second half of the lap. We are very, very strong. But honestly, not much happened in that first stint, so we actually move all the way on, as there's a lock-up just there. We move all the way on to our pit stop, which is on lap number 11, so there really was not a lot of action to call in the opening stages of this race. And yeah, we just have to skip all the way on because absolutely nothing happened. So into the pits we go, we get our hard tyres on, and hopefully we can generate some more overtakes in the latter half of this race. Another thing I forgot to mention is that I increased the difficulty between races because I did, you know, find that I was making my way through the field relatively quickly last time. So we're up to...
That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go.
We're up to a difficulty setting of 70 now, which is the highest I've run all season long. And depending on what circuit comes up next, I might still aim to increase that further. But yeah, it's good that I'm slowly getting used to these cars, these modern F2 cars at certain tracks. But anyway, as we continue on, we've dropped ourselves down the order, of course, with that pit stop. Oh, yellow flag up ahead. Let's see what the cause of this one was. And as we look from the bird's eye view, that's one of the Prema cars spinning around. And now they will have to watch the world go by before they get a chance to get moving again. That, I believe, is Oliver Behrman, who made the mistake, and yeah, is having to do a very similar thing to Arthur Leclerc, perhaps not to quite the same extent, but big mistake by Oliver Behrman, and drops to the tail of the field out of those who are yet to stop. So big problems for Ollie Behrman, and yeah, that will end the chance of points for one of the Prema drivers when they had a big opportunity this weekend.
Kush is in the pits. Kush in the pits.
As Kush Miney comes into the pits. Our teammate will hopefully see a bit more of them this race. But as we continue on board with myself, one of the cars in front of us diving off into the pits. I'm not sure if that's for a second stop, if they got some damage at some point on the way out of pit lane, or if that is their first stop. It is Richard Verschaw who is going in for that second stop. So yeah, I don't know what the deal is there for Richard Verschaw, why he's chosen to do that. I believe that is his first stop, if I recall correctly. So as we send it round the outside of Arthur Leclerc, we're going to have to fight for this one. Leclerc out of pit lane on cold tyres, and we're able to find our way through. So Leclerc almost getting the overcut on us. But yeah, Richard Verschaw, I believe he was just quite slow throughout the whole first stint of this race, and just continued to drop further back to the point where the cars that had made pit stops eventually just caught up to him. So I believe that was the situation there. But anyway, as we now make the move down the inside of the Red Bull liveried car of Yumu Iwasa into Maggots and Beckets, we get that one done and move ourselves up into the top 5 once more, as we have to go over the little escape runoff there and have another go at it. Now we'll see if we can make the move down the inside of Teo Porcher into the club section, and we'll should be able to get this move done, and we do.
Nice move, good job.
And we get it done. A bit of a moment on the exit, but we're clear of Teo Porcher. As we continue to race on, we'll go for the move, and not quite able to get down the inside of Isaac Hadjar. We've got Frederick Vesti just in front as well, so now we'll see if we can go for the move down the inside of Hadjar. Hadjar awkwardly defending there, and we just weren't quite confident to send it up the inside, and it's very hard to go full send when there's Frederick Vesti right there as well, because we can't afford
Pace is strong, but be aware these tyres need to go the distance.
to go too deep when we try to make overtakes. So with Hadjar jammed under Vesti's rear wing, it's quite difficult, but we get a nice run on the exit. Is this the opportunity, or is Hadjar going to go full send? We still can't make the move. Hadjar late enough on the brakes, and we can't make that move. Hadjar doing a great job to hold us off in the late stages of this one. And now Hadjar's going to go for the move down the inside of Frederick Vesti. Is this our chance to get involved and maybe grab both of them? We're a little bit far back to try and take advantage of this just yet, but we'll see how this fight plays out with Hadjar around the outside. We'll have the inside for the next corner, but it looks like Vesti able to carry the speed around the outside. Now we've got some good momentum versus Hadjar, who was disturbed onto the straight through the awkward line in the dirty air. We're not close enough yet, but perhaps a good run through the opening sequence will give us the opportunity to potentially go down the inside into turn 2. And now we're going to go for that move, and we should be able to get this done nice and controlled using all the road there. And we move ourselves up into 3rd position as Jack Crawford retires from the race with a mechanical failure. So it's been a tough weekend for the American driver after being in the podium fight last weekend. Back on board with myself then in 3rd position, and it's Frederick Vesti in front, but we've only got 1 lap to go, and I'm not sure we're close enough to make any overtakes.
Final lap, let's go, final lap.
So final lap of the race, and yeah, Vesti a long way up the road, but not as far as Jay and Aruvula. Look at the margin to 2nd place. They are nowhere in sight. The Indian driver has dominated at Silverstone. Jay and Aruvula, 2 feature race wins in a row for the MP Motorsports driver. What an awesome run of form he is finding now in the championship. He's on the charge and here to stay. We come around the final corner ourselves. We dropped even further behind Vesti ultimately on that lap, but it's another podium.
That's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
Another podium to finish off the weekend here at Silverstone. Another driver of the day as well. Good weekend overall.
It's a drive of true class. It's victory for Jayant Aruvula.
Momentum is everything at this mid-stage of the season. We're getting towards the business end of things. What a brilliant way to continue that momentum into the end of the year.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be MP Motorsport picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for that fantastic performance.
Well, if last round wasn't a championship statement, this round certainly is. Jay and Aruvula takes his 2nd feature race win in a row, with Frederick Vesti in 2nd position, myself rounding off the podium.
After all this drama, you'd be mad not to join us for the next race. We hope to see you then. Take care.
Alrighty then, well that just about wraps up all the action from Silverstone, so let us have a little run through the finishing order and everything else we normally do. So Jay and Aruvula with the race victory, as well as the fastest lap ahead of Frederick Vesti and myself rounding off the podium. Then 2 Frenchmen round out the top 5, with Isaac Hadjar ahead of Teo Porcher, who has had a fairly solid weekend, P4 and 5 in the 2 races for Teo Porcher. Ayumu Iwasa P6 ahead of Jack Doohan and Arthur Leclerc in 8th. Then another 2 Frenchmen, Victor Martins moving up into 9th in this one and bringing home a couple of points for the weekend, and Clement Novalak finishing where he started in P10. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, Jane Deruvula moves up into second position, 67 points behind us, so we still have a handy margin there ahead of Jane Deruvula. Frederick Vesti sits third in the Drivers' Championship, 68 points behind, and then, he's just 1 point behind Deruvula. 75 points adrift is Dennis Hauger, ahead of Oliver Behrman, who is probably the last of the real contenders, 84 points adrift. Topol Chen, 91 points adrift, and everyone else has less than half of my current points haul. In terms of the team's championship, we dropped to second with Deruvula taking the win there for MP Motorsport, and they are now 6 points ahead of us in the team's championship. Prema, with Behrman having that spin, did not capitalise on the opportunity. They are 4 points behind us, 10 points across the top 3 teams. ART drop away a little bit, 58 points adrift for ART, and of course everyone else continuing to drop further behind, but notably High-Tech scored a decent bunch of points in this race today, and they moved themselves off the bottom of the team's championship table to a total of 27 points. 12 of those scored in today's feature race, with Hadjar finishing in P4. Van Amersfoort are at the bottom of the table now, just 2 points behind High-Tech, so not much in it down there as they fight for the scraps this season. But by far one of the best races for a High-Tech driver so far. But anyway, I still need to go on for like another minute, so what else can we talk about? 5 rounds to go in the season, so still plenty left to play out, especially in the team's championship, which is so close between ourselves, Prema, and MP Motorsport, who lead the way currently, of course. And Jane Deruvula has been absolutely on fire these last few rounds. Ever since I said he needs to lift his game, he's been on it. So, yeah, pole position, race win, and to be honest, no one was catching him today. Deruvula domination at Silverstone. But, that, I think, is going to do it for this one. So, I'll say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Please feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. It is always very helpful, and other than that, I will see you again in the next one, and goodbye.